It is interesting times in Cameroon at the moment, and I am honored to be joined by Dr. Ditah to talk to us about how he feels with the whole situation in Cameroon, the upcoming elections, and just pick his brain a little bit on certain aspects that are happening on the ground. So once more, welcome Dr. Ditah to the You Can Be Anything podcast, and I'm happy to have an opportunity to chat with you once more.
Thank you very much, Solange. It's my pleasure joining you today. Greetings to the fellow audience that gather pertinent information through your platform. I feel honored to be sharing these thoughts today about Cameroon or the Cameroons, a country we all come from. On the 12th of October, they will once more be going to the polls. Nothing is constant except change, though that change has been difficult to come by in Cameroon. So while I'm hopeful, I am very skeptical because for decades, Cameroon has known nothing that resembles change, prosperity, or progress. So I hope October 1st, October 12th turns over a new page in the history of Cameroon, but I'm very skeptical. Ask me this question on October 13th.
Your skepticism is not only on you. A lot of Cameroonians out there have the same kind of feeling that you have. And for those who are listening to us, what would you say is the main reason you have this, you feel so skeptical, just like many of you or many other Cameroonians who feel the same about the upcoming elections on October 12th?
So Solange, it's historical facts. For many of us, since Cameroon's independence, we have known two presidents. If you look at the current leadership of Cameroon, you are living in a nursing home. Paul Biya is about 93 years old. The president of the Senate, Nyat Jifanji, is about 91 years old. The president of the Parliamentary House of Assembly, Cavaye, is about 86 years old. If you go into those that run the country ministerially, the Minister of Justice, I think it's one Mr. Eso, is about 84 years old. The guy who should be pronouncing who the victor for October 12th elections is about 85 years old. If you look at the leader of the police or security, they are either in their late 80s or early 90s. A country whose top 6 leadership is averaging 90 years of age tells me we are leading the country into the grave. October 12th, that leads a country into the grave, should leave every Cameroonian very worried. That's why I am particularly skeptical about what the outcome of October 12th would be. Cameroon has known no change.
You bring age into this, which is something that a lot of people are concerned about. But if we are looking at age and we are looking at the current people that are running, the current candidates that are running for presidential elections, again, just based on what we see online, there is a lot of following that is going towards people like Issa Chiroma Bakari. And the people that follow him, that are endorsing him, the reason they give for this endorsement is that all they need is change. Issa Chiroma Bakari has been accused of so many things. Some people say he's been part of the current government. There is no promise that he's going to be different. But if you're taking age into consideration when you call all of these people that currently run the country, what do you have to say about the crowd that Issa Chiroma Bakari is pulling now and his age as well?
Well, Solange, when you push the people to the wall, they accept the fight. In fact, they have no options. What are their options? The good options have been sidelined. The good minds that should be running the country have been chased away, prematurely killed, or rotting in jail. And so anybody who is yearning for change is going to grapple. I think there was a bishop in Cameroon who said at this point in Cameroon's history, voting for a devil is better than voting for Paul Biya. I think if I see the people yearning for Chiroma, it is not so much that they are yearning for Chiroma. It is that they are tired of the current dispensation and they want anything but the current dispensation. But as I just alluded to, my skepticism about October 12th is because we have seen this script before. I remember vividly on the 26th of May 1990 when the SDF was launched peacefully at City Chemist Roundabout in Bamenda. 6 souls were killed. I remember the crowd that was being pulled at the time. I remember the 1992 elections where, may his soul rest in perfect peace, Nijon Furundi reportedly reassured the people that suffer don't finish. He rallied a similar crowd like this, and if you followed those elections, you would know that Nijon Furundi was the victor that was never declared the victor. And so, if the current dispensation stays the same, I see the people constantly yearning for change, even 35 years after Nijon Furundi did what he did, we are still at a standstill. So I will be asking you, what is it Issa Chiroma is bringing to the table that Cameroonians have not seen before? Now you talk about age, and to be honest, Issa Chiroma is no different. Now, truth be told, he is better because initially he had refuted facts about the Cameroons. And if you followed his campaign recently, particularly in Bamenda, he has come out to acknowledge that he has been misled and he's told a lot of lies. So at least to fix our problems going forward, it starts with acknowledgement. He is acknowledging it publicly. He may be a devil, but he's acknowledging it publicly. And until you begin to acknowledge, you are not going to move on to the next step. So I look at it like a script we've seen before, and it's foolhardy, playing the same game over and over and over again and hoping for a different result.
Yeah, that's interesting. So as you mentioned, Issa Chiroma just turned 76. So at least from the names you called, they were mostly in the 80s. He is 76. So maybe that gives him a bit of a standing within the Cameroonian crowd. But
well, I beg to differ. As I said, those Cameroonians are yearning for change.
Yeah, they're just tired.
If you follow the politics of Cameroon, Issa Chiroma was part of Ahidjo's government.
Yeah.
So he's an old broom. Issa Chiroma was imprisoned after the failed coup of 1984. So he's an old broom. He's been part of the system. Again, you're hoping for change, but as far as he may be 76, but he's just as rotten like anything else. Again, anything that moves us away from Paul Biya is better, but that country deserves better.
Yeah, in the course of talking, you mentioned SDF again, power to the people, suffer don't finish. I grew up again, then we were more younger and we could hear all of this. And so many, again, when people, I'm talking to you based on information, just from coming through social media, listening to different people. Joshua Osei is a candidate for SDF this presidential elections. We've heard him talk on different platforms about what the SDF is doing. Per my understanding, I don't know how their social media campaign is going, but you don't see it a lot, just as we see the numbers for Issa Chiroma Bakari. What do you think is happening with the SDF party that they are not pulling the crowd that they pulled in the 1990s when Nijon Furundi ran for the elections?
Well, to be honest, the people are frustrated. They genuinely want change, and you see old octogenarians, people who should be enjoying their grandchildren, clinging to power, and they are becoming fed up. They are looking for fresh faces in the game of campaigning and running for elections. All of those people are paper tigers. If you look, even the nonagenarian Paul Biya, if you look at the slogans they use, you look at what they promise to the people, they are all eloquent. The devil is in the implementation. I'm so exhausted following what the promise is. Can we move from a promise to action? Can we evaluate them based on the action? And that's why I again go back to say Issa Chiroma is no different. He's been a minister left, right, and center. He's been part of Ahidjo's government, And so he's been in the system for close to 50 years. He should be running on his record. I mean, if you've had 50 years to do something, you should be running on your record and promising me that this is what I started, this is what I need to finish. Same like OC. When he, at least Nijan is out of the picture, I mean, I give him some credit because even while he was still alive, he stepped away from running for president. And so I give him some credit for that. But all of these platforms we are talking about mean nothing until you move past a Tangana who would be reading those results. Because a good promise left in the closet does no good to the citizens of the Cameroons.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how things are going, because you would expect that in a space like Cameroon now, when we talk of everybody complains about the age of the leadership of the ruling party, the ruling leadership in Cameroon now. But if you look at somebody like Joshua Osei, the expectation, if you're just looking at it from outside as a lay person, is that this is a young, vibrant man that is coming up as opposition. How come he's not pulling the crowd as much as, again, this is just based on polls that have been put here and there. This is not, how come he's not pulling the crowd as much as Issa Chiroma Bakari is? And that is just a question that is hanging out there. This is just based on data that we see from what has been published. It doesn't necessarily mean that is the real data that is on the ground, that the numbers are correct. But we can all see that when it comes to the opposition, Chiroma is pulling quite a crowd, way more than OC is, even though OC is a young and vibrant one, and Cameroonians, one of their biggest cries is that their president, our president, is 92 years plus. So it is just something.
It's not my president. Continue.
Yes, that the president of Cameroon is 92 years plus. So again, that's just something that when we talk about it, I look at it in different ways. So, and now I want to, go ahead.
So I get the key issue is what is happening with OC.
Yes, what is happening with OC? What is he not doing right?
It's not what he's not what he is not doing right. It is what's the dispensation of the Cameroons. I've been very particular in adding an S to the Cameroons. And earlier I told you that SDF was launched. It came in round about May 26, 1990. In Bamenda. Over the past 10 years, the Anglophone crisis has been boiling. Over the past 8 years, Bamenda, Boya, what I would call Anglophone Cameroon, has been in a war declared on them by Paul Biya. That is the stronghold of the SDF. That's the backbone, the foundation of the SDF. Therefore, if that backbone where you start, if your nucleus is not intact, there would be no periphery. So if I look at why my analysis and interpretation as why the SDF would limp is because their backbone has been hurting for decades, exacerbated by the war over the last 8 years. One, they've even done nothing to address it. They've been fueled with slogans left, right, and center. They've done nothing to address it. There's been growing apathy among the citizens, and because of that, they've lost hope in that. Now, I would say Chiroma drew a reasonable crowd in the Northwest, partially because the citizens have realized that one of their biggest downfall is this divide and conquer approach. And if there is something to be said about Chiroma, is that he has built a coalition. Could be limited, but at least you can say Chiroma is not standing for one person. He has represented a few. And Cameroonians have gotten to a point where they know that to really agitate the system, there has to be some form of coalition. Chiroma, good or bad, is running with some coalition behind him. That's not the case with the SDF. At least Joshua Osei continues to represent solely the SDF without any coalition. And therefore, I hope the citizens are saying, we've seen this script before. We can't play the same game over and over again and somehow hope for a different result.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. That's something that has been a wonder in the people who watch. And those are some of the questions that you hear people, you see in comment sections in different places when we talk about things like this. So I do appreciate your explanation on that. You mentioned the struggles in the English Cameroons, but in the English-speaking Cameroons. And we all know that this is something that has been going on for quite some time, and there's not been much done about it. We've also heard when Chiroma was in Bamenda, he mentioned he has added in his political, what he plans to do for when he becomes president, as he says, that one of the things he will do is he will free the political prisoners. He will take care, which we all know that there is a lot of English-speaking Cameroonians in the prisons in Cameroon. And when he says that it's appealing to the people, so those are some of the things that he uses in his campaign to appease the people. Now that Chiroma is speaking more closely or in a friendly way about what we call the Ambazonia, what do you think, according to what you've heard so far, or just your own personal experience with the way our politics has gone since the struggle started? Do you believe that Chiroma will be able to bring back Bamenda, Boya, the English-speaking Cameroon, together back to where we were at least before 2016, when the struggle was crucial?
No, I think there has been political maturation in the Cameroons, particularly the southern Cameroons, that even surpasses what Chiroma is talking about. At least I'm happy that he's moved away from saying he was misled to acknowledging historical facts.
Yep.
Early on, he would appear on the Equinox TV and say there is no Anglophone problem. And today, he articulates the Anglophone problem and even states that during the so-called plebiscite, only 2 options were given to the citizens of the former British Southern Cameroons. It's nice to hear him go on record and acknowledge that. If there is a silver lining in this, is that at least there is a public witness. I've seen a lot of people out there blame the so-called Ambazonians for the crisis in Northwest and Southwest. And if you therefore listen to Chiroma saying he was misled, then that makes him a prime witness to the atrocities that have been caused by the government of Cameroon. So it begs the question, who else is sitting on the facts and misleading the population? So at least it's a starting point for a conversation. But I think there has been political emancipation. As Solange, many people are going to hear the word Ambazonia on your show. And without the political emancipation of the citizens of the former British Southern Cameroons, this word would be a taboo. You and I can even hear Chiroma talk about the Anglophone crisis freely and make mention of the word Ambazonia freely. I think it's thanks to political maturation of the Cameroons, of the Southern Cameroons. My hope, though, is that this translates into bringing the French Cameroon brothers into political emancipation and maturation, because then and only then can I begin to see a more prosperous Cameroon. I believe that Bamenda and Boya are being held back because of the war declared on them by Paul Biya. The moment Paul Biya declares a ceasefire, Bamenda is going to sprout beyond what we know today.
I'd love to hear you say that, but there is also that concern that Cameroonians, English-speaking Cameroonians have, which they declare. It has to do a lot with what we experience today as shutdowns in Cameroon, in the English-speaking parts of Cameroon, right? And one of the things that you'll hear people talk about a lot is like, yes, the Amazonia crisis. Yes, there is shutdown. Children are not allowed to go to school at certain times. Elections are coming up. There publicating shutdowns and all of that. Don't you think, again, what do you think about this? Do you think that, is it Paul Biya, the running government, which we all know has a very big role to play in this struggle? Or is it our own Amazonians, the people that are propagating this fight, that are making our people stay down? Because the shutdown is not affecting Biya's people. It is affecting our children. It's affecting the people that live in these cities, right? And now we're talking about people not being able to go vote because of whatever is happening. Yeah, because of the war. And if we have our own people are not even able to go out and do their basic stuff, which is they would experience due to these shutdowns, do we think that the Northers, the Cameroons, are mature? We're talking about political maturity. Are they mature even to even be on their own? If someday Chiroma wins this and says, yes, I give you people what you want, do you think that the Southern Cameroons have that maturity to even run a country of their own if they cannot? Again, based on what we hear, there is not even a proper running of the affairs of the Amazonia with all the disagreements and things are happening today. What's your thought around that ideology?
So you bring something that hurts my heart, and I have to say it's very unfortunate. So let's be clear. There are certain things going on in Anglophone Cameroon that do not deserve a place. Even if it was Amazonia or whatever they call it, I think the citizens of the former British-speaking Southern Cameroon deserve better from both sides. Community harassment should have no place. Kidnapping for ransom should have no place. Allowing kids to gain education. Now, if you reject the current form, you have to come up with an alternative that allows these kids to learn so that they can be informed citizens tomorrow, holds an important place. I think that's important. You also said trouble in running the affairs. So it brings up the next issue, which is division, particularly in the diaspora. I think the ground is very confused, so it's difficult to evaluate who is who. But division, even in the diaspora among those. So those are the issues that I would say are unfortunate to be there. Now, if you ask me as an individual to evaluate the true citizens of the British Southern Cameroons, I would say late Cardinal Toomey conducted his study even in the middle of the war, and he said more than 90% of those that participated in his study are willing to take their chance and move away from La Republique. So they must. I did not participate in the survey, so those who participated in the survey must believe that somewhere there lies greener pastures, and maybe their current mess has been created by the system. I also know, as an early follower of what was happening, that on the 22nd of September 2017, I saw citizens in unison, all with peace branches, without a weapon. They were all speaking one voice. Even on the 1st of October in 2017, it all broke apart when Paul Biya's team violated international law, went to Nigeria and kidnapped political asylum seekers and got them sentenced to prison terms in Yaoundé. So it's difficult to truly evaluate what the true dispensation of the Anglophone Cameroon is without allowing them to fully express themselves. Coming to the current elections, if I were to interpret what's going on there, it is on the foundation that we are not part of them. If it is enforced by the Amazonians, they're saying we're not part of them. So from their standpoint, they have no elections going on, which means the conversation about voting or not voting is not even in their conversation, right? So if I say I'm not part of this, then I'm saying I'm not part of those elections. And that's why it makes it difficult. So again, it's difficult to interpret. But to your point, there is pain and suffering in Bamenda and Boya. If somebody was to ask me who is responsible for this, 1, 2, 3, it's Paul Biya. I blame a lot of the Amazonians, But when I blame them, I see myself sometimes as victimizing the victim. Because when Paul Biya calls his grand national dialogue, if he truly addressed the issue and gave them their special status, then he's recognizing that these people are different. He wants to implement something else. Hey, Solange, how do you feel about a country whose incumbent is campaigning on a poster? They're holding his picture around like they're at his funeral, singing. I'm seeing the guy being danced on sticks and campaigning for elections. I see sardine. I see bread. I see
That's unfortunate.
1,000 being passed. So to me, if you're truly to ask and answer the question, what's wrong with Cameroon? You cannot look past that. And until you address that, everything else is mute. And so our problems comes from having Paul Biya maintain the status quo. Every other person is a victim of that. And people who are out there being victims are confused. So I don't know how I can hold any of those other people accountable until you've addressed the Biya issue.
Fact. That is a fact. We all know that there is a Biya issue, and people have lived with the Biya issue for so many years. At the same time, we're trying not to finish up again. When people come and talk about this, the whole idea is we shouldn't stop our own children from progressing. The same people that we want to grow up and become the leaders of the country that we are looking forward to, we should not deprive them of education. It's one of the cries that we'll hear
You are now
online
on
a
the same
lot.
page. You are now on the
Yes.
same page.
Awesome.
And if Ambazonians, any leadership of Ambazonia is listening to me, please organize the Northwest and Southwest, organize the former British Southern Cameroons, and allow for the children of this former British Southern Cameroons to have access to quality education. Please, I think that's very essential. Please, any of the leaders of Ambazonia, if you're listening to me, when you go out there to make a public statement, I'd like to hear you make 2 public statements to all of those people that are following you and fighting out there for so-called Ambazonia. Ask them to stop community harassment. Ask them to stop kidnapping their own citizens for ransom. Let Atanganji come and do that. Let Atanganji be the perpetrator of that. But value the lives of your brothers and your sisters. Stop the kidnapping for ransom. Stop the community harassment. Allow our children to have access to quality education. Your grievances are legitimate. The root cause of your issue will need to be addressed if we want long-lasting peace and justice for the Southern Cameroons. But please do not use that as an opportunity to victimize your fellow brothers, your fellow sisters, your parents, or your children. Thank you.
Except October 12th is here. It is coming right in front of our eyes. We do not know what to expect. We've heard people say, hey, it is no longer about the socioeconomic or infrastructural updates or changes that Cameroon needs. What Cameroonians are looking for, they just want to see a change in face. And with October 12th coming up, what will be the final thoughts that you would love to put out here for anybody that cares to listen to you on this show today?
My prayers and thoughts are with the citizens of Southern Cameroon and the citizens of Cameroon. I ask the leadership of the Republic du Cameroon to look on its citizens with pity. You have been in this position forever. The people have always attempted to go the route of peace. They say, if you cannot allow a peaceful revolution, you make a violent revolution inevitable. Please do not allow these peace-loving people to resort to a violent revolution. I say this because year after year after year, they have remained hopeful. They have made arguments towards peace without violence. I recall the crisis of the 1990s that led to the Owona Constitution, that mandated a president not to go more than 14 years, that calmed those crises in 1996, except when Paul Biya's term was about to expire in 2010. In 2008, he bribed his parliament to change that constitution and allow for term limits, for no term limit. And 14 years later, we are there. So I am asking the leadership of La République du Cameroon, starting with Paul Biya and Atanganji, to say, please, when you make a peaceful revolution impossible, you make a violent revolution inevitable. And please do not continue to try the will of the citizens, because eventually they yield. I look at what's going on in the Anglophones as a problem of Paul Biya failing to yield to their attempts at peaceful revolutions. I foresee this at some point in La République du Cameroon if you fail to allow for a peaceful revolution. Right now, they are yearning for change. They are asking for a change in leadership. They just want a fresh face to represent them. If you do not give this to them, at some point it will become violent. In small proportions, you will squash it down. Eventually, people will accept death over the ongoing status quo. So if there is a single phrase I'm leaving out there, I am not leaving it for the citizens. I praise them because you have exercised utmost patience. You have chosen the path of a peaceful revolution forever. I am appealing to the leadership of La République du Cameroon that if you make a peaceful revolution impossible, you make a violent revolution inevitable. And I fear that you are pushing your citizens to that point. Thank you very much, Solange, for giving me the opportunity to participate on your show today. I wish all of my brothers and sisters that are listening to me, whether you are an Ambazonian, whether you are a person from the British Southern Cameroons, whether you are a citizen of La République du Cameroon, that at the end of the day, all of us are one. We have all been held captive by a very wicked regime led by Paul Biya. And I pray that I know he does not understand anymore. He's probably demented if I followed his comments a few years ago in Washington, D.C. But those that are perpetrating this crisis on the citizens of that country, have mercy. You may benefit today, but you are suffering your future generations. Thank you.
My pleasure. And with that, thank you again, Dr. Ditah, for talking to me. And we continue to pray for our country, Cameroon, for Africa in miniature. And let's see how October 12th will go. Thank you. And I hope to talk to you sometime after the elections. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you much. This is my second time coming here. I hear the third time is the charm.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you too.